This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, so I think yesterday, so what exactly we're discussing? So we discussed about how we can dynamically hide or show the elements on the UI by using CSS. And this is one of the component. And also I think we created one of the component. And now we are going to understand about where exactly we use the component. Let's say if you want to use the component as a tab, so what we need to do? If you want to use the component on the record home page, what we have to do? So all those things we are going to understand now. So for that, so here already this is a component created, and here we are saying that flexi page available for record home. So this is one of the standard interface provided by Salesforce. Okay, so really no need to buy heart. So all you need to do, you should have this component library and the design system as a bookmark. So open the component library. In the component library, you see all the standard components, standard interfaces provided by Salesforce. Okay, so we need to look into that and understand how it will work. Okay, so basically, if you want to display one of the component on the record home page, that means on the record page, whenever we open any record, so we use a flexi page available for record home. So maybe when we start newly, we cannot remember. You can click on this list of interfaces and understand from here. So mostly we need to spend some time on looking into the documentation and understand the interfaces. And so in the same way, if we want to use this component as a tab, so we have one of the interface called app hostable. If you use this interface, automatically the component will be displayed to create a tab. So these are the some of the points we should know. Okay, so let's say I also want to make this component available for tab. Simply we can say comma and the interface. So we can inherit multiple interfaces as per the OOPS concept. We can inherit multiple interfaces. Right here also same thing. So now this component can be used in the one of the record page or as a tab. Okay, so now let's see, really we are able to see this. So deploy, and once you log into Salesforce, so let's try to create the tab. Go to tabs, click on tabs. So here lightning component tab, so click on new. So here you are able to see this using components. This component, the reason is we are using one of the interface force colon app hostable. Due to this interface, we are able to see here. So you can give some name and create the tab, right? So let's say custom component. This is the tab name I'm giving. So you can choose some tab style and click on next. Click on next, maybe save. Maybe I did not add to any application. If you want to add to one of the application, go to app manager, add to application. Okay, so this will be available as a default of tab. So directly here I can search for custom component, and this is the one. So this is the tab just now we created. So that is about that. So now, so one of the next point, same component we can also, we are seeing, but content is not there for now, right? Let's say I'm adding some content. So inside this, I'm using lightning card, one of the standard component from Salesforce. Title, so I'm giving us, so let's say custom component. Okay, this is the title I'm giving. And deploy. Now you will see that card whenever we click on the tab. Just to refresh. Okay, so now you are seeing this, right? So in the same way, the same component is also will be available on the one of the record home page. Okay, for example, so I want to add on the lead record page, right? So I'm opening one of the lead record I'm opening, and to modify this lead record page, click on gear icon, click on edit page. It opens in the app builder. Due to this interface available for home, okay, you see our component here under custom components. You see, so using components, that's a component name. So we can drag and drop and show this. Okay, so let's say I'm just dragging and dropping here, and you see that component, right? So, but now, so what I want, I'm not going to save. The requirement is it should display only on the contact or account, only on those object record pages. It should not display on other objects. Okay, so if you want to control for which object record page the component should be visible, so for that, in the component bundle, we have one of the resource called design, right? So this design, using this design resource, we control. So in which object record page you want to show. So I'm going to open this one. So I think first time now we are understanding about the design resource. One of the advantage when we are adding to the record page, you can control for which objects you want to show. Okay, so for that in the design. So basically, if you see documentation, there also you can find. Okay, for now, since I'm able to remember, I'm typing. Otherwise, always we can refer the documentation. Okay, so SFDC objects. So like that we give. Okay, in that. So each object, for which objects you want to enable SFDC object. Let's say I want to enable for contact, and also I want to make this component available for the account. Like this, right? So this is to control the component availability for the objects. Okay, so for that we use. So now let's see, really, is it working? Let's see. So I'm going to right click on this folder, deploy this entire component. Now we should not see this one on the lead record piece, right? So go here. Now whatever we opened is a lead record page. Here this component should not be visible. So when you refresh, you see this is not visible here on the lead record page. But if you go to either account or contact record page, you can see. Go back. So let's say I'm opening one of the contact. Click on Context tab. Click on All Contacts. And I'm opening one of the contact. So like this, you want to see. Okay. So just now, if you try to open in App Builder, edit page, here we have to see our component. Using components, right? This component is visible. So here, based on this, we are controlling. So that is one of the advantage with the design resource. So one of the other advantage, so whatever the component we developed, whatever we develop. So do you want to show this both in mobile and also desktop? Okay, so we can also control the availability. Let's say we created one of the complex Aura component, but you want to maybe make this available only on the desktop, on the larger screen. You don't want to show that in the mobile. Okay, so those kind of things also we can control, right? So here to control the availability based on the device. Okay, so for that we have design supported form factors. So there is a tag. So obviously, so practically you cannot remember this. Okay, so always we see documentation and refer that. Okay, so now instead of searching, I'm typing. Okay, absolutely. If you are not able to remember, you can always look into documentation and use it. So at least if you have idea, yeah, there is a way to control. So then you can look into documentation and try to get that. Right? So it's like that. And also in the same way, design supported form factor. So like this, we need to give like supported form factor. Let's say in case I did not remember, at least you know supported form factor or something. You will see in the documentation. Okay, so I want to enable for only large string. You can mention large, right? So maybe if you want to make it available for small screen, you can also mention small, right? So like this. So this is what I am trying to use now, right? Type. So I want to, let's say, give large. Okay. In the same way, small, for small screen also want to make it available, you can do that. So this is to control. So on which device,
Srini,
how?
need to correct the tag. Form factor. Form factor. Form factor. The ending tag is form factor. Remove just S at the end. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, deploy. Yeah, now it is deployed. So that is to control that. Anyway, now it will be available for the large screen also. Still, if you go back and refresh, still you will see the availability. So that is one of the point. So one more thing, one more advantage of the design resource. Some of the attributes can be configurable. Okay, so for example, let's say this card title. I'm referring from one of the attribute, Aura attribute name equal to, let's say I'm giving name as title, type, I'm giving as string as a default, let's say custom component. something like this as a default value I'm giving. Now I'm referring this title from that attribute v dot title. Okay, so now so what should happen in general? This is not by default configurable in the app builder. That means in the app builder, when we try to add, go to that contact record, just to refresh one time. So drag and drop. So now when you drop here, in general, by default, our component attributes are not configurable. Okay, there is a title attribute, but I want to provide option to configure that attribute value right side here. So for that, so we can expose the attributes to configure in the app builder by using the design resource. Okay, so for that, go to this again design. So here we can say to show the attributes, otherwise to allow attributes values configurable in the app builder. So for that, we say design attribute, and the label can be anything. Label can be, it's our, as a developer, you can give anything, right? So let's say card title. That's the label I want. But the name should be, it should match with the name of the attribute. Here name of the attribute is title. So that's what we have to refer. Okay. And here, do you want again replace some default value here? You can also give that. For now, I'm not giving, right? So just save it. So this is to expose the attributes through app builder. The advantage is through app builder, administrator can provide the value whatever they want. Okay, now let's see. Now just if you refresh and see, after adding the component, you see the configurable option at right side. Right side, drag and drop. Okay, so now if you see card title, right, we can configure whatever we want, right? Let's say I'm changing like this, right? So that is possible. So this is one of the example. Just maybe I'm activating this one for entire organization, and internally, right, we are allowing, it is like a form factor for this space. It will be available for both the desktop and phone. So now go back and you will see that. Okay, so that's it, right? So that is just to understand. So now I want to show you how we can use the component as a quick action, right? So quick action means, so far we discussed all these things, and maybe documentation resource I'll explain. So now before I explain about that, so as a custom action means when you open the record, here whatever the buttons, these actions you are seeing, all these are the standard actions. We can create one more custom action, and we can keep our lightning component as a content for that custom action. Okay, that is possible. Now, while creating the action, in order to use our component, we have to use one of the interface. So otherwise, what will happen? Let me show you. Click on setup. I want to create one custom action on the contact object, and I want to override with our lightning component. Go to object manager, go to contact, and click on contact. And the left side, we have buttons, links, and actions. So I'm creating a new custom action. Okay, so here I'm choosing lightning component. Right now, if you see global value provider, only that is displayed, but our component, it is not displayed, right? In order to make our component available here, so we have to inherit one of the interface called force colon lightning quick action. Okay, one of the interface we have to inherit. So really, if we are not able to remember, this is the place, right? So just search for quick action. So this is what we are going to use, right? Just copy and comma and give here. Okay. So in case if you want to remember, it's always better if you type, so that you will remember without referring documentation every time. Okay, so now this allows to show this as a quick action. Right now when you deploy this, I'll go back. Okay, so now, so let's say here choose lightning component. Now if you see our component is accessible. So now let's say I'm going to maybe add two inputs and provide some option to calculate the values. Okay, so just for our demo purpose, I'll say calculate. So this is the name of the action I'm giving, and I'm saving. Okay, so now once we create the quick action, if you want to see on the record page, we have to modify the page layout. Go to page layout. So out of all these page layouts, if you see this page layout assignment, so at present we logged in as system admin. For system admin, contact layout is mapped. Okay, so we need to modify this one. So if you want to add the action which we created on the lightning experience record page, so left side you see, don't choose these quick actions. Here you don't find, right? You have to choose mobile and lightning quick actions. This is what. So here, if you see, calculate is there, and so this is the area I'm adding here. See. So now, if you go back to the contact record, any contact, if you open, you will see right, calculate, right? So automatically, so it is just showing that, right? So this bottom actions and all those things automatically Salesforce provides, right? So this top level close, so all these things as a default, Salesforce provides those actions. Okay. Now inside that, I'm going to maybe use two inputs and show you. So how we see the results. So now go to this component UI. So here I'm adding two inputs. Here lightning input. Okay, so label, I'll say number 1. And also in general, so when you define the lightning input, if you don't mention any type, by default the type is text, right? So in case if you want a number, we have to mention that, right? So if you want to know more about that, so if you go to that component library, right? This is a component library. So go to that lightning input, click on lightning input. So first time to have understanding. In general, by default for text, no need to mention any type, but for maybe email or telephone or for number, so we have to mention the type, right? So number type. So here we have to give the type as number. So these kind of things we should know. So now I'm going to give type as number because we are going to enter the number. Okay, so now to identify this one, I'm giving one local ID, Aura ID, to identify this input element. So maybe I'm giving as number one. Okay. In the same way, number two, giving number two, and ID to recognize this one, I'm giving. Right. So internally, we also give name, which is optional. Maybe sometimes based on the name, we recognize few things. So if you want, you can give, otherwise, just leave it. Okay. So now, so we can give two inputs, and maybe here I'm going to add, I'm giving one line break, and I want to add one button, right? So lightning button, and here button label, so I'm giving as maybe add, and here if you want to, maybe if you want to apply some style, so by default it show with the white color background, the basic button. So we have different types of styles. Brand means it will show in the blue color, right? So neutral means neutral color. So like that, you can always again go to lightning button and see how it works. Okay, so always, so when we are, until we remember, always we can open this documentation, always we can refer. Let's say I want this quickly, right? So variant, I have to give variant as brand. Neutral means like this, right? If you don't give anything, this is base, by default the base, right? So like that. Okay, so now I want that brand style blue color, and now on click on this button, what you want to do, right? On click, so let's say I want to call one of the controller JS function. So dynamically to call the controller JS function, we use c dot and the name of the function. Let's say add. Okay, we have to define. I think so far we did not define any function. So now in the component, go to controller.js. This is the one, and I want the function name as add. And this I want to use the short form. So now, as soon as we click on that button, what it has to do, I'm not storing the values of this input in any attribute, right? So without storing also, by based on these IDs, we can find and we can do. Now what I want to do, already we know, if you know the local ID, identifying that element, identifying that component, dot find, we have to give the local ID, number one. So this is now the entire this element. From this, I want the value what they entered, right? So value whatever entered into that input. So if you want to get that, so technically this is also a component. Lightning input is a component, right? Label, type, value, all those are the attributes. If you want to access the attribute, dot get, we have to say b dot name of the attribute value. I want value. Now this is a number one, right? So let's say I'm taking this number one, I'm storing into this. Okay. And also, if there is nothing entered, again, little bit dangerous if you use constant. Okay. So if you think that there is a chance of changing that value, take let. Okay. So let's say I'm again one more input here, number two, right? So, but this is not a variable, right? We have to make sure to enclose because number two means it think that there is a variable with the number two, right? So here we have to make sure to enclose in the single quote or double quote. So now we have number one and number two, and we are going to add. And so now what I want to do after adding, I want to uh, show as a alert message, like a toast message. Most frequently we use toast messages when we work. So it will show the message for a few seconds and after that automatically it will close. So I want to display that toast message. Okay. So for that, so what we do to display the toast message, we have to use $a dot get we have to mention there is a event. Actually, there are many standard events by the system. Okay, one of the event is toast message. Okay, so that we can get that event and fire that event. Okay, so the process is $a dot get, and here e dot, that is a system event. E dot, e means event. So what is the event name? So force column show toast. Okay, so where we can see this, if you go to the component library, again go to the component library. So left side, if you see, you are also seeing events. There are many standard events provided by Salesforce. Okay, so one of the system event show toast. So this is what I am going to use, right? So you also see how exactly this will work. Then no need to by heart, right? So if you really don't want to remember, so all we need to know where to see that and how we use. So that with that we can do our job. But if you want to teach to someone or you want to type, so then we have to remember. Okay. So yeah. So anyway, now this is what I'm going to mention here, right? So here I'm storing the result into a constant. So you can also use where, but nowadays, as per the latest JavaScript rules, where is a global scope and which is dangerous to use. As a good practice, wherever it's possible, we have to use constant. And if there is a chance of changing that value, use let. Those are the things mostly we have to use in the modern JavaScript. Yeah, this documentation was prepared a long back. Okay, now the standard is changing. Okay, so now, so maybe I'm storing into this. So let's say I'm giving this as toast. All we need to know. So this is how we get that event, storing into that. And so we can fire it. But before firing, so we can add some parameters, what exactly you want to show. So as part of that message, set params, right? So here, so all the parameters in the object format we have to give, right? Object is like this, name and value pair, name colon value comma, again name comma colon, like that we have to give. So one of the value title, right? So while showing, So what is the title of the message you want to see? Right. So add result. Right. So let's say that's the title. So what is the message you want to show? Message. Okay. So here I want to show the message as number one. So here number one. So for that, I'm concatenating plus, and while printing, I want to the message I want to see like this. Number one, let's say 5. 5 plus, right? Since plus is a string, I want to append it to that, right? While displaying 5 plus, and after that, let's say 10 I'm giving. Let's say if I give 10 for the number 2, it will be showing like this. 5 and the plus symbol, it will show again number 2 is 10 or whatever we give, it will show is equal to like that. So if you see in regular way, this is how we need to concatenate all these values. But same thing, if you want to go with the modern template text in JavaScript, right? So there is a concept called showing the string in the template text format. So we use backtick. Backtick is which is under escape keyword. Okay. So if you enclose your string inside this, so all dynamic values, wherever you want to give the dynamic value, you need to give here, right? So let's say number one, and no need to concatenate with the plus, right? Number one can be 5 or 10 or whatever they enter, space plus. So number two, again it is dynamic value, right? So number two is equal to. So now I want the result. Again, result is also a dynamic, right? So here I will say number one plus number two. So it will say 10, 25 supply, 10 plus 20 is equal to 30. So that is a message it is going to show. Okay, this one just we are storing the instance of the event into this. We are setting what exactly the title you want to see, what exactly the message you want to see. Finally, we need to fire it. Okay, toast dot fire. This is the way to fire it. Same thing in documentation, you see, right? So and also by default, so there are some right severity levels. If you see few more parameters, mode sticky means it won't close until we close. In general, the toast message it will show for 5 seconds and close it. And if you don't want to close it until you click on close, you can also use this mode is equal to sticky, right? So the other advanced parameters, and also let's say you want to show in green color or red color, right? If it is error, it should be red color, right? You also see the severity. So always we see this documentation and understand, right? Type by default, right? If you don't mention anything, other means in gray color you see. Okay, so let's say it is a success. So I want to show in the green color, right? So we can say success, type is equal to success, so that this message it will show in the type green color. Okay, so I'm giving the value as success. Okay, so that's it. Now what should happen when we click on this? It is showing here. We see that number one value, number two value, we enter both. We see a button. When you click on add, it will add and it will show the toast message, right? So, but before it shows the toast message, I want to close this. I don't want to click on this one to close. Automatically, this should be closed. Okay, so if you want to close this, again, there is a system event for that. Again, if you want to know about that, so if you see So one of the close quick action. So this is the event we are going to use, right? Close quick action. If you remember, we can type, right? So my requirement is I want to close it and then display this result. So what I'll do, so before even I show that message, so I'm keeping here, and you can, if you want, you can store this into one variable, again say dot file, or directly fire it, so that it will fire. Now, due to this this is to close the pop-up, whatever the screen you are seeing, that one, right? This is to show the toast message. And also one of the very important point, these standard events, whatever system is providing, these are not supported when you keep your component inside the Aura application. So if you keep in this application and if you try to see the result of that component, you see error. Okay, because the standard events, the platform, whatever it is supporting, those won't fire, those won't work. It will say there is a syntax problem. Okay, so don't try to use a component where these actions, the standard events, whatever we included, you'll see error. Okay, so that's one of the points. Okay, anyway, now let's see. So far, whatever we developed, how it is working. So now go back, right click on this and deploy. So it is deployed. So now let's go back just to refresh. Okay, so now this is a quick action. Click on calculate. Now you are seeing, so you can enter two numbers. Let's say I'm entering 100 and I'm entering 400. After click on add, if everything is fine, it will close this pop-up, and after that it will show the message, right? So click on this, it is closed, and after that you are seeing this, right? For few seconds, I think 5 or 10 seconds. 10 seconds. Okay, if you don't want to close it until you click on close, so what we can do, we can keep the mode as a sticky. 45 plus 5, 455 is wrong, right? So that's the thing we have to check properly. So now what is happening? So in general, when you deal with this plus operator in the JavaScript, so plus operator will try to concatenate the values, but other operators will automatically so convert the type and do the calculation properly. When you deal with the plus operator, we should be careful while adding the numbers. Okay, so since instead of adding 45 plus 550, it is giving 455, that means it is doing the concatenation. So what we do, we convert this. I'm converting this number one, right? So if it is in the string format, it will make sure to convert into the number format. So that way you can resolve that problem. Okay. So now right click and deploy. So deployed. So now just refresh. Calculate. Okay, so now we have to see 50. Now it is calculating properly, right? So like that. So this is one of the example. Now with this example, so for all these examples, just we understood the component as a tab in the record page, and that too how we control based on the object, based on the form factor, based on how we expose the attributes using the design resource. So all those things and how we use as a custom action we discussed. Okay. So before we take the next example, how we deal with the record specific action means how we can save the record, update the record. I'll give one more example for that. So before we deal with that, so documentation resource. So in the component bundle, we have one of the resource called documentation. I think we did not discuss about that so far, right? So this is the one. Aura doc is nothing but the documentation resource. So the purpose of this documentation resource is whatever the custom components we develop, those custom components also we can show in the component library. So if you see, this is the Salesforce standard component library. And here you are seeing all the Salesforce standard components. So if you replace this generic URL with the Salesforce URL, whatever our Arc Salesforce URL, let's say this is our Arc Salesforce URL, right? Copy. And here, if you replace with our, so this now, this documentation, it will open specific to our organization. Along with the standard components, whatever available, we can also see the custom components, what we created. If you see, all our custom components will be under the C namespace, right? So here like this. So now here in the documentation, so how the result, how it should show the preview. So those kind of things we decide. So let's say using components is one of the component which we are dealing. Not allowed, and we're seeing some error, right? The reason is we did not generate this properly, right? So the thing is here, maybe whatever you want to type, you can type for that component, why we are creating that component, right? Let's say understanding about the custom component uses. So this description it is going to show. So maybe example, let's say using components. Maybe we can type more details just for our demo. Just a simple text I'm typing. So label, what exactly you want to show. So here the reference, how to refer that. I think our component name is using components. So this way, if you maintain, it will try to render this in a proper way. Right? Let's see. Right click and deploy. So now go back and now just to refresh. Okay, so now if you see, so understanding about the component uses. So now here standard, right, body that will be there by default globally. We have one custom attribute title and example, right? This is how it is showing. So I'm giving this. I don't think so the standard events will fire here. Okay. I mean the events, since we are using some standard events, somehow there is a limitation on showing in the documentation. So otherwise, basically it will give the preview in a proper way. Okay. And also here if you see, this is our logic. And so if someone, that's so other colleague, if you want to give the component and how it works, you can give this URL. By opening this, they can see the code and also and understand how it will work. Okay, so that's about this documentation resource.
Srinu, can you
Yes.
show the documentation tab again?
Sorry.
Can you show the documentation tab on this page?
So this our in component.
In the website, in the component library.
Yeah, in the component library. Okay, documentation. Yes.
Okay, so whatever we write in that documentation will be displayed over under this tab, correct?
Yeah. So you can use some HTML tags in between, right? Span tags and all those things, and you can elaborately explain about this component. That is possible.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So just understand about that. So now let's go back. So we are done with this example. We discussed about these features as part of this example. So now I'm going to create one more component, again similar to our custom component, right? So but this time I'm going to use this, let's say, to save one of the record into the database. Okay, and click on one of the custom action. It will open a pop-up, and we provide the option to populate the form. And after saving, the record should be saved into database. Okay, so that we are going to work. So for this, so I'm going to just create this component with this name. Okay, I'm closing this. So press F1, Aura component. I'm giving the name as record specific actions example. This is the name. So now, if you want to show this as a quick action, what we need to do, we have to use implements. We have force colon lightning quick action, and make sure that we have to provide the capital letters and everything in a proper way, because the JavaScript is case sensitive, right? So now, so in this example, what I want to do, so we also have one more interface called lightning quick action without header. Okay, so in the normal quick action, what happens? So this heading, this action cancel, all these are automatically added by the system, right? So I don't want this footer, whatever header I don't want. Okay, so in those situations, we have one more interface, lightning quick action without header. Without header. Yeah, I'm using that one. Okay, again, if you want to see that, if you go to the documentation, you can see in the list of interfaces, right? Quick action without header. This is what I'm trying to use. But when you type, we have to make sure to maintain all the cases. Okay, so maybe since we don't have more time, so what I'll do, I'm going to deploy and create the action, and also add that action on the record base, and the logic we write in our next session. Okay, so I want to display that action on the account. Let's say from account, we are going to create the contact quickly by clicking on our quick action. Okay, so for that we are working. We'll go to object manager. On the account, I'm creating one of the action. Account, buttons and links. So I'm creating a new action. So lightning component. If you see record specific action, our component it is showing. So maybe I'm increasing the height because I want to show many fields. So at least I want 400 pixels height. Maybe you can change it if it is not sufficient. And also label, let's say quick contact, quickly to create a contact. This one, go to the account, add to the page layout. I'm adding to this account layout. Mobile lightning actions. So here, I think a quick contact, that's the action name. Drag and drop. That's it. Okay, so it's there, right? So now, if you open one of the account, okay, so now here we have quick contact, right? So, but nothing is there, right? No header, everything we need to add. So we are going to add, but one thing what we need, automatically, whatever the account we open, that account ID I want in the component, so that while creating the contact, automatically we associate this contact with that account. So we don't know which account the user opens and click on this. Dynamically, that whatever the account is opened, that ID we need. So for that, we have one of the interface called has record ID. So if you see this one, okay. So based on the record whatever we open, in that if it finds some action or one of the component on the page, system can automatically detect the ID. So internally, it maintain an attribute like this. From our side, no need to define, right? So that's what I want. Right? All we do is like this, right? As recorded. So that is one point. If you want to get the ID of the record, what we open, we have to inherit this interface. So where it will be available, system internally maintains a attribute with the name record ID. So into that will be available. Okay. So for now, maybe to show you quickly, I'm just showing that on the UI, right? Deploy. Tomorrow we'll see really how we use that and work. Tomorrow in the sense Monday. Right? We see that ID, whatever we open, you are getting this. So like that. Okay, so we are done for today. So any questions before ending today? Okay, maybe I'll commit this. Push to this. Okay, you can see the changes there. Okay, we'll continue on Monday. So just try to practice. So whatever we discussed, and so that will be good. So when we maybe really in the projects, when you get the requirements, all these ideas, all these things will be useful. Okay. Yeah. So we'll continue on Monday. Thank you.